According to this, we are going live. It's making all of its little connections. So we'll just spend a few seconds here just doing some simple chit chat. How's your day going, Sheri?
Good. How about you?
It's going pretty good. Going pretty
I have
good.
really enjoyed this weather. This weather's been phenomenal. I think it's going to get a little cooler, but
Yeah,
it's
I heard
all
about
about perspective, is what I heard.
right. And I heard there are. How did I read it? There are several different prospects about how the weekend could go. One of them shows a possibility of snow.
There you go. Not yet. Don't even use that S word.
What
It's a
is
matter
that?
of perspective. It's beautiful. Have you seen the colors?
I
I go
know.
for walks and I try to stop and smell flowers. And sometimes I post it on my Facebook just because
I
I want
love
people to
those.
look at it from a different perspective.
I love those. We went out a few weeks ago looking for fall colors, drove all over. I think we might have saw maybe one or two trees. That was it. I think we went out a week too early because I just love to we take a day in the fall and just go looking for the fall foliage.
So all my family's from East Coast. If you have not went to the East Coast for the fall,
Oh,
that's
I
where you
want
want
to.
to go. So yeah, I'm from Alaska, right? I grew up in Alaska, but I was raised by two East Coast, and all my family live in the East Coast. So there you go. That explains Sheri, little Alaskan, a lot of East Coast. And now I live in Kansas. So anyway, I'm Sheri Berger, and I own Here to There Consulting, and we educate business owners with the tools to balance work, life, and finances. And I have with me today, TerryAnn and I are what is it called? Help me out,
We're
TerryAnn.
co-hosts.
Co-host. We're co-hosting this, so welcome. I'm so glad you guys are here today. Go
And
ahead and
I'm
introduce yourself, TerryAnn.
and I am TerryAnn, life coach TA. I help to overcome those negative self doubts by looking first at perspective and then finding those unseen possibilities within yourself. And once you find those possibilities, you'll notice there are pathways open, and then you can decide which one will you proceed on.
And today we're going to talk about that.
Yes, we're talking about perspective today. And
know.
I have this little story that leads me into perspective. I just think it explains so much how we can all be looking at the same thing and have different perspectives about it. Several years ago, a friend came over to visit. And we're sitting on my back deck, drinking our iced tea, catching up on life, when my friend comments on the beautiful yellow roses in my backyard. I looked out there. Yes, I do have roses all across my back deck, but they're red. I'm just assuming that she misspoke, and I let it go. We go on, talk some more, and again, she mentions those beautiful yellow roses. Now, at this point, I am totally confused. I know my friend is not colorblind. What is she looking at? I'm looking out there. I see no yellow anywhere. So I said, would you like to go out and see the roses? So we go off the deck and across the backyard, and we're at the roses, and she leans down and she smells them, and oh, those smell so wonderful. I said, well, what color are they? They're yellow? Now I'm totally confused. I'm looking at this rose. She's seeing yellow. I'm seeing red. And as I'm leaning down, looking at what I know is a red rose, I look up into her face and I said, would you take off your sunglasses for just a moment? She takes off her sunglasses and says, oh my gosh, they're red. The amber tint on her sunglasses was so deep that it totally changed the color of what she was looking at. How often do you and I look at something, the very same thing, and for whatever reason, we each see something entirely different? That's our lead in today to perspective. What do you think, Sheri?
I just think it's very interesting, right? It matters what perspective we're looking for. So if we're working with clients or we're working with our spouse or our children or our friends, and maybe we have a breakdown of communication, maybe it's not really communication. Maybe it's the perspective.
Oh.
Right? So I have another story, which is similar about perspective. I talk a lot. I know everybody that knows me is shocked. And I have important things to tell you, okay? And you need to listen, right? Well, that's my perspective of life. Not always, but at times, especially that dear husband. I've been married more than 2 seconds, I tell people. We've been dating 30 years, married 26. He's loved my life, but he doesn't always listen to me. I don't know if you guys have that problem with your spouse. And I got important things to say. Telling you. That's my perspective, right? So I can look at it that way and think, wow, he must not love me or care about me. And, he's more introvert. I know you're shocked. And I'm more the extrovert. And TerryAnn, does Kevin sit still?
Oh, no.
He always is on to his
always moving
project. So I got frustrated a couple times, but then I decided to change my perspective. I'm like, Kevin loves me a lot. Kevin actually will listen to me. But when he does that? When I go have coffee with him and I take him away from distractions. So if Kevin's distracted, right, in a project, he's not necessarily listening. He pretends he is, but he's looking down at his phone, or he's fixing the car, or he's staining the deck right now, or what is he doing? Or another thing that I found out that I can do is say, hey, I know you're busy. Yeah, but I can listen. Yeah, well, you know what? I'd rather when we sit down and maybe we can have a cup of coffee later and can I talk to you? So I think sometimes we need to figure out where the other person's perspective is, not just our perspective. I think Kevin sometimes thinks that Sheri's just talking because Sheri talks all the time. Which maybe that's true, but I'm trying to tell you something. So
right.
If we change our perspective, what does your husband say to you? Because you talk to computers, I heard.
Hey, so does he.
Yeah, but what does your husband say to you while you're talking to a computer? We're not talking about him. We're talking about you, TerryAnn.
Okay, so I process things. So I will take a while, and so I've got to go through all this, and I have to say them out loud so I can hear it. Every once in a while, my husband will say, "Are you talking to me, yourself, or your computer?" He said, "I'll tell you what. If I am supposed to be a part of this conversation, tell me. Otherwise, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing."
See, and he's changed his perspective in that situation.
Yes.
He knows that you're going to talk. I mean, I do the same thing, but sometimes you've tried to tell me, Sheri, I'm not talking to you. I'm like, yeah, I know. I noticed that. Sounds like you're talking to the computer. But yeah. Yes. So what are some things that you guys maybe struggle with? Because, man, we got some people on here and it's great. Good morning. Great to see you guys. And yeah, what are some of your perspectives, right, that are going on? I do know there's this one perspective. I mean, I love summer and I grew up in Alaska. You guys have, of course, I can't call you guys anymore, even though you guys is Alaskan term. But anyway, you guys have 4 seasons. Alaska, we have 2.5. We have winter and spring, but spring breakup, which is all mud. And then maybe a minute of summer and maybe a little bit of fall. I mean, not really. You guys actually have your 4 seasons. So a lot of people
here, wait a minute. Wait, hold. Here, we can have all 4 seasons in one day.
I know. Isn't that awesome? It's all about your perspective. So I love it when you guys get some snow. You guys, because I've lived here for 30 years. But
we're not you guys anymore.
I still got that Alaskan perspective, right? So if I'm coming from the Alaskan perspective when it snows, and my husband loves to go shovel the driveway, I'm like, you guys, it's going to melt in one day. Why are we shoveling the driveway? Except for I shovel the driveway. I'm being funny, but it's about your perspective, right? Yes. And right now I love summer because I love the pool, love the lake, right? And now the fall is happening. And I've noticed some people have a good perspective about the fall and some people don't. So what is your perspective? That's what I'm asking the people that are on here regarding the seasons. I mean, right? It's all about perspective.
It's all about perspective. So you can look at, oh, it's cold, it's dreary, oh, it's just so awful out there, or change the lens. You know, that snow out there is really beautiful, and I'm happy. I'm inside a nice warm house.
And I can now turn my fireplace on.
And now, yes, I love that.
But again, I don't know why we're talking about snow. We're in fall.
Okay.
We got these beautiful leaves, and the weather's phenomenal. And I know it goes up and down in the fall, but you know, we never know what we're going to wake up to. There's a great perspective.
So how do you, if you're working with somebody, Sheri, and they're just really on this one mindset, what are some suggestions that you can make to help them at least open up to other possibilities of a perspective, other ways to look at the very same thing? What are some ways that you can suggest a person do that?
Well, I think like technology, right? That will hold people back a lot in the business world, believe it or not.
How does it do that?
They will look at this mic that I have that's still not set up. And they'll say, this is overloading. I'm not sure how. I'm not. And if you change your perspective of, I can figure it out, or I know how to get the resources to figure it out. So sometimes it's just about looking outside that box of what you're thinking, right? So what are you thinking? Somebody talked today, though. They're saying, I'm working on perspective a lot over the last few years. I find I struggle mostly with people who have this perspective of the right way, taking into consider other ways. Oh, that we can only skin a cat one way?
Yes. That's always an interesting one.
Do you know that if we get more people to, you know, I was a system analyst for Sprint, and I know you have a degree back in IT. If we could get more people to analyze the situation, when even now, we can come up with so many other possibilities or opportunities. So if we get stuck that it's only our way or the highway, we are really limiting what we can do. Right.
That's where I always like to say, well, explain to me your thought process here. Not in the lines of what were you thinking? No, but what were you thinking? What was your thought process to get you here? Wow, that's interesting. Can I share you my thought process? Because although we got to the same end result, I had an entirely different thought process. And try to look at it as thought process instead of right and wrong. And sometimes I can get a good conversation going on. Oh, Grace here. She loves fall.
I know she does. I've seen that. But I want to talk a little bit more really, really quick about perspective.
Yes.
So, TerryAnn, you have a different, I don't know if it's perspective, a different way that you do coaching versus the way I do coaching. And so we came together because when we work together with different perspectives of how to get people from here to there, I just made a pun on my own business. But my point is that we get a different perspective of how to come up with a roadmap to move them from here to there. And we do it a little differently. And then we share each other's information, which we have done. Then how much more of an impact can we make with clients? So that's why TerryAnn and I came together. Also, you do a lot. I mean, you do a deep dive with mindset coaching. I do a dive with mindset coaching, but not a deep, because we need to move on to goal setting. Not that you don't do that. Goal setting, and then we need to move on to our time management.
Right.
Then we need to worry about our goals, and we're trying to get it all right. Cumbersome. But you do the deep dive. So I'm saying you have a little different, not even perspective, different way you do it. And I have a different way. And when we come together, we complement each other if we come together with the right mindset in that. Yeah. And Grace says that she likes the fall. And I love that because it shows me that it's time to shed the old and enjoy the beauty of the season.
Oh, I like that.
Wow. What a great perspective.
I love that. when you said perspective and talking about doing different things, recently had a conversation with my husband. We were talking about doing laundry. He occasionally does laundry. Most of the time I do it. He says, yeah, but I don't want to do it because you don't like the way I do it. No, it's not that I don't like the way you do it. We do it different. We end up with same results. We just do it differently. We come at it from different perspectives. And that's all that it is. You want to do laundry, you go right ahead and keep on doing it.
I bet it's only only laundry that you do in your marriage on different perspectives.
Oh, and the dishwasher. How many, okay, hands up here. How many people have trouble with somebody won't load the dishwasher because, well, if I load it, you'll just rearrange it. So why should I bother?
Oh, that never worked at my house.
That doesn't work at my house either.
We don't rearrange, and we had our 3-year-old loading the dishwasher. Now, we might have to clean up the water afterwards, and we might have to actually put the dish in where the dishwasher will shut. But the 3-year-old put a dish in. We're happy. We taught our kids since they were about 3, maybe 2, to load their own dishes. And they still come over. They're adults now. And I'll look at them and go, your mama don't work here. You better get that dish in the dishwasher. They put it right in. And my dad, you have to do it the right way. So my mom and dad are older. I go over and I load the dishwasher. I am still intimidated. Is that crazy? To load my parents' dishwasher. Because my dad's going to come along. He's going to criticize me. He's going to tell me I didn't do it right. And I don't understand his perspective of how he's trying to load it. And I am how old?
But let's look at it another way. I always rearrange. I rearrange even after I put something in. And it's not that there is a right or a wrong way to load it. From my perspective, it's that, okay, if I move this over now, we can get a few more dishes in.
Oh.
So the perspective in my house is not that you did it right. There's only one way to do it. It's once we get it in there, we're going to rearrange it because I want to get as much in there as possible because I only want to run it once. I don't want to leave dishes in the sink.
Now I have
to run again later.
I believe that's what my husband does. But my father, he lets you know how you didn't do it his way and how messed up it is. And I'm like, Dad, I don't know. And then so now I just try to tell Dad, I'm going to load this because we need to get it started. This is how it's going to go, Dad. But we have some other people that made comments.
I want to look at one more thing on perspective, and I want to share something that came across today. And I think this is where a lot of perspective issues come in. And I tell you, I'm just going to read it because I don't know if I can make it big enough. But here's something came across my feed today. You know what breaks me? When someone is visibly excited about a feeling or an idea or a hope or a risk taken, and they tell you about it, but they preface it with, sorry, this is dumb, but don't do that. I don't know who came here before me who conditioned you to think you had to apologize or feel obtuse. Not here. Dream so big, it's silly. Laugh so hard, it's obnoxious. Love so much, it's impossible. But don't you ever feel unintelligent, and don't you ever apologize, and don't you ever shrink so you can squeeze yourself into small places and small minds. Grow. It's a big world. There's room. You fit. I promise. What I like about that, and this is where I end up talking to a lot of women about perspective. They take that perspective of, well, yeah, I really was excited about that, but it sounds dumb. So-and-so doesn't like it. That doesn't matter what they think. This is your life. This is your mind. Don't let that other person hold you back. If you've got that dream, go for it. If they can't see your dream, that's their problem. But don't let the fact that they don't like your dream keep you from liking your dream. So make it more about, what do I want? What do my dreams want? And go there.
Yep. That's exactly right. I want to answer a couple of these questions that people have out here. I love that. And by the way, TerryAnn, post that later on our wall.
Oh, yes.
I loved that because we need to look at our perspective and where we're trying to go. And when I hear that, I hear, go back to the 3-year-old you, go back to the 5-year-old you, go back to the 10-year-old you. What did you want to do? And why aren't you? Is it your perspective in it all? So this one says, go ahead, you can read that one.
Oh, I like that phrase, thought process. And I'm thinking she's talking back to that point where I was saying, I've got to think the whole thing all the way through. And I have to say it out loud and hear those words. And there's a lot of thought process involved in that.
And then Lynn says, I like the seasons in Kansas City. And so she said, I believe that 65-year-olds belong in Florida during the winter, though.
Me too.
I love the seasons in Kansas City because you literally get to see the fall and you literally get to see the spring. You don't understand. I grew up in Alaska. We really seriously do not have 4 seasons. We have winter, spring breakup. If we're lucky, we get like 2 days of summer. And the fall's not the same. Our trees are not as big as yours. They're not. They can't grow in Alaska. So you guys have the beauty of the 4 seasons. See how that's a different perspective, which I really enjoy because I'm like, yeah, I love summer and I hate it. I don't hate it because when fall comes, then it's really pretty. Then you got when winter comes, I like that we get snow for a couple days. I like to go sledding. My children will not go sledding with me. It brings me back to the 5-year-old me, right? I can go play in the snow for a couple days and pretend I'm in Alaska, and then I can come back to reality. I don't have to live 9 months with snow. Just saying, because Alaska, it's 9 months with snow. I'm not joking. It is. But even then, as a little kid, I never knew better. So I could look at it as 9 months with snow, or we used to build the coolest snow forts over from my house over to my best friend's house, which we had 6 acres. She had 6 acres, 12 acres. We lived on farms, believe it or not, in Alaska. So I grew up in the farming, but we could build stuff that you guys, right? It's going to melt. We had 9 months to get it done. Can you imagine
perspective and changing it to?
They were phenomenal growing up. Now, do I miss the snow now? No, because you guys give me enough of it in Kansas. And I love what Lynn says. When you live alone, dishwasher issues just go away.
That's true.
Now, this is funny because Kevin and I are newly empty nesters. At least I think we are, but we're in a pandemic and we sent our baby to college. She has not came home yet. We just don't know, right? You just don't know. But when things happen here, he'll be like, well, I don't know who did that. And I'm like, Kevin, only you and I live here. So one of us did it. And luckily we've been married long enough that we laugh about those type of stuff. But I go, Kevin, can't blame a kid.
Now we start blaming the dog. Now it's the dog's fault.
Sometimes the kids come over for the weekend, and maybe they did because we have 2 of our middle 2 children, that live close. But our oldest lives far, So it's all about your perspective and changing.
And I find, like you were talking about, like going into goal setting and everything. And the thing is, even with goal setting, you can't get to that goal setting until you've set your perspective. So it's like the perspective is the foundation of all of it.
That's right. So I always say mindset, which perspective is about mindset and changing your mindset in it.
Yes.
Because if you don't, right, I'm never going to get I'm not kidding. I don't have my mic over here, and I don't even know how long I've ordered. I need to hook up my mic, especially since I'm confessing to everybody that I have a mic, I have a camera, but I got too much to do. Well, isn't that a bad perspective? I do have too much to do, but why is it not on my to-do list? And by the way, when people say they have too much to do, that's a lie. It's not a priority.
That's it. So
it has not been a priority to me. It's not that I don't have too much to do. I can't figure it out is another. That's not true. You can figure it out with either help of other people's resources and YouTube. By the way, I don't know about you, but back in our day, remember, we had to use the encyclopedia and we had to go through the index at the library. My my younger 3 kids, I used to tell them, YouTube it. So see, it's excuse, right?
Yes, you can figure anything out. Yes, my grandson, there's nothing he can't do. He's, hey, I'll go look at YouTube. Don't worry about it, Grandma. I'll get it figured out.
Yeah, exactly. But it's all about, can I figure it out? And if I don't figure it out, do I have resources to help me figure it out? And then I love this. Lynn says that she loves Let the Dreamers Dream.
Mm-hmm.
When you read that,
yeah,
really important.
If you don't like what somebody else is dreaming, you really don't have to give your opinion. You know that? It is okay not to tell somebody, well, I think that's a dumb idea. And it's okay when somebody says that to you to say, well, it's okay. You don't have to agree with me.
But how about if we let ourselves go back, right? And we brainstorm
yes.
what possibilities are, which we're going to talk about next week, right?
Yes. Once you develop that
brainstorm, when we get out of that small little mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And how about if we show other people grace because maybe their perspective's not the same as ours?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're having that a lot right now, which I don't even want to bring up this word, but with politicians and voting right now, have you seen people tearing other people down because maybe they got a little different perspective?
Yes.
Versus being a little more open-minded, understand why they think what they think, right? Because then we can come together as a community.
That's the important thing to learn today is look at your perspective. What lens are you looking through? What lens is that naysayer looking through?
And maybe what lens your clients are looking through when you're trying to figure out. Because if we had this happen one time when I was doing computer programming, we had a client we almost lost because we weren't getting the correct information. I was a programmer analyst at the time. We kept writing the code and they kept telling it was wrong. Well, we had business analysts then. So I said, hey, I'll keep my mouth shut because my boss would believe me, right? Let me sit in the meeting, figure out what questions need to be answered. And I promise you, I'll be a fly on the wall. He had to think about it for a minute. He let me do that. I was a young 20-year-old, brand new into IT, but I was able to sit in that meeting, figure out what questions needed to be asked so that the programmers could make sure, and we saved that client because now we were on the perspective, right? Mm-hmm. We were doing what they wanted versus what we thought we heard. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's about seeing what the other person's perspective is.
And I like that, what you thought you heard. How many arguments come from what I thought you said?
Well, it's basically we were playing telephone, right? You ever play telephone with the
yes.
So we had the business analyst telling the programmers what they thought the client said. And so then when you get a programmer like me that came and sat in their meeting, I didn't say anything, believe it or not. I can keep my mouth shut. I know how. Anyway, I sat in the meeting and then I was able to get those correct questions, asked that we needed.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We love the discussion of perspective. And you can see everybody has a different perspective in the same situation. Next week, we're going to look at, what are we going to look at? Oh, possibilities.
Possibilities. We're going to talk about the possibilities when we can change our perspective. What are the possibilities? Or if you worked with somebody with a different perspective, what would be the possibilities?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many possibilities in it.
You are welcome to leave a comment on our Facebook page, send an email asking questions, give us your thoughts. Debbie just popped in. What I thought I heard is an issue.
Exactly.
What I thought I heard is some of the biggest arguments around.
Well, and sometimes the way that somebody's even acting, right? It's out of their perspective, right?
Yes.
I mean, anybody that's been married more than 2 minutes would know that sometimes it's a bad perspective when you're dealing with the other individual. But it's the same with friendships, right? It's the same
friendships
when you're working with clients. It's all about what is your perspective and what is mine.
So leave us a comment, leave us questions, send an email. We will be back next week, 9:30, and we will be talking about possibilities. Until then, make it a great week.
Yes, go make it a great week and go look at different perspectives this week. And we would love to hear from you. Have a
Change
good
hands.
have a good day.
Bye, everyone.